90% of people in almost any online community never post a single comment. They just watch. That number isn't a guess. It comes from the 1990 rule, popularized by researcher Jakob Nielsen in the early 2000s. It says roughly 90% of users are lurkers, 9% post occasionally, and just 1% create almost everything you see. So the person who never comments isn't the exception online. They are the overwhelming majority. But why do millions of people watch closely, feel connected, and still never type a single word? And is silence actually a sign something's wrong? Or is it just how most people naturally engage? In the next few minutes, you'll see 4 real psychological explanations researchers have found behind this exact pattern. First, there's a technical name for this behavior, and it comes straight from online community research. People who consume content without ever contributing are simply called lurkers, a term that's been studied for over 2 decades. One explanation researchers point to is evaluation apprehension, the fear of how a comment will be judged by strangers. It's not that the lurker has nothing to say. It's that posting feels like exposing an opinion to instant public scrutiny. A second explanation is low self-efficacy, a quiet belief that your own opinion isn't valuable enough to add to the conversation. Someone can read every comment on a post and still think, someone's already said it better than I could. That thought alone is often enough to keep a person scrolling instead of typing. A third explanation is far less emotional and far more practical. It's called free rider behavior. This is someone who consumes the value of a community, the information, the entertainment, without feeling any obligation to give something back. They're not anxious about posting. They simply don't see a reason to. The content already gave them what they came for. A fourth explanation is purely functional. Some people are only there to gather information, not to socialize at all. Their goal was never connection. It was extracting a fact, an opinion, or an answer, and once they have it, they leave. Notice something important here. 3 completely different motivations can produce the exact same silent behavior from the outside. Anxiety, indifference, and pure information seeking all look identical in a view count, but they come from very different places. There's also a growing privacy concern shaping this behavior, especially as platforms increasingly show seen or viewed indicators. Knowing that your engagement is visible, even without commenting, changes how cautious people become about what they interact with. Some researchers have also found a moderate link between lurking and higher trait introversion, but that correlation isn't as strong as most people assume. Plenty of extroverted, socially confident people lurk constantly, simply because commenting takes more time and effort than scrolling. This is where most explanations online get it wrong. They treat lurking as a symptom of social anxiety or isolation by default. But research from Blair Non-Neck and Jenny Priest, studying platforms like Reddit and enterprise online communities, found something different. Many lurkers reported a strong sense of belonging and community, despite never posting a single comment in that community. That directly undermines the assumption that silence always means someone feels disconnected or emotionally guarded. For a huge number of people, lurking isn't a wall keeping them out. It's simply their comfortable, low-effort way of being part of something. Think about your own habits for a second. How many videos, threads, or posts have you read closely without ever typing a reply? Chances are it's the overwhelming majority of everything you've ever engaged with online. That doesn't mean you're anxious, disconnected, or hiding. It likely just means you're one of the 90% the research already describes. So if lurking is this common and this normal, why does it still feel like something worth explaining at all? Because understanding the actual reason behind your own silence tells you something useful about how you engage with information and people. If your silence comes from evaluation apprehension, the fear of judgment, that's worth noticing, because it can quietly limit you in other areas too. The same hesitation that stops someone from commenting on a video can show up in meetings, group chats, or professional conversations. If your silence comes from low self-efficacy, believing your take isn't valuable enough, that belief is rarely actually true. The 1990 rule means the 1% creating most content aren't smarter. They are simply the ones willing to hit publish anyway. If your silence is free rider behavior, that's not a character flaw either. It's just a completely rational use of limited time and energy. Not every space deserves your input, and choosing not to contribute to all of them is a legitimate decision, not a failure. And if your silence is pure information seeking, that's arguably the most efficient way to use any online space that exists. You got what you came for, and you moved on. That's not laziness. That's function without wasted motion. The real insight from this research isn't stop lurking. It's understanding which of these 4 reasons actually applies to you. Because the fix, if you even want one, is completely different depending on the real cause underneath your silence. If it's fear of judgment, the smallest possible comment, even one sentence, tends to break that pattern faster than people expect. If it's a belief your opinion doesn't matter, remember that the 1% creating content aren't more correct. They're just more visible. If it's free riding or pure information seeking, there's genuinely nothing to fix. That's simply how you choose to spend your attention. The 90% isn't a group of broken or disconnected people. According to the actual research, it's just how most humans naturally participate. Nielsen's rule has held up across forums, social platforms, and enterprise communities for over 2 decades, because the pattern keeps repeating everywhere. From Reddit threads to comment sections to workplace platforms, the same 99% to 1% imbalance keeps showing up. That consistency is exactly why researchers stopped treating lurking as unusual and started treating it as the expected baseline behavior. The 1% who post constantly aren't a different type of person. They've just made a different choice about visibility. And the 90% who stay silent aren't missing something. They're engaging in the way that feels natural and low risk to them. Once you see it through this lens, the person who watches everything and comments on nothing stops looking mysterious at all. They're not hiding, in most cases. They're just one data point inside a pattern that's been documented for over 20 years. Understanding that pattern doesn't just explain strangers online. It might explain your own scrolling habits more accurately than you expected. If this changed how you think about your own online behavior, there's a video on this channel that breaks down another everyday pattern most people never question. It takes this same research-first approach and applies it to a completely different habit almost everyone has without realizing why. Go watch that one next, because once you start noticing these hidden patterns, you'll start spotting them everywhere.